Art has the power to hold a mirror to our human psyches. It forces us to reflect on what it really means to be human. Sometimes, that process can reveal profound beauty. Other times, we find the ugly, the perverse, or even parts of us that are just plain scary. Rhythm Zero was a groundbreaking piece of art by legendary performance artist, Marina Abramović. She demonstrated what can happen when you give up your own free will to the whims of a crowd. The result nearly killed her. When Marina Abramović placed herself at the mercy of a crowd of strangers in an art studio in Naples in 1974, she had no idea what to expect. She stood before them with a sign that read, "There are 72 objects on the table. That one can use on me as desired." At first, the participants were gentle. They kissed her, fed her chocolate cake, and put a rose in her hand. But very soon the mood shifted. As each person took their turn, they began to choose pain over pleasure. Someone took the knife and cut off her clothes. Another man made an incision in her neck and drank some of her blood. Marina Abramović was completely committed to her art piece. She did nothing to resist, even as tears began to run down her face. But the night was still far from over. At one point, someone picked her up and carried her half-naked around the studio. They then placed her down on a table and stuck a knife between her legs. The performance piece had a strange effect on the crowd. It triggered an aggressive mob mentality that caused each successive person to take the experiment to a more dangerous extreme, and things almost went too far. In the most tense moment of the night, one woman picked up a gun, loaded it with a bullet, and pressed it against Marina Abramović's temple. She then carefully placed Abramović's finger around the trigger, apparently daring the artist to pull it. At once, the gallery staff seized the gun and threw it out the window. But Marina Abramović remained stoically impassive during the entire episode. According to one art critic, who witnessed the terrifying spectacle, she was so devoted to the piece that she would not have resisted rape or murder. Marina Abramović's bold exhibition was about more than just flirting with death. It revealed some interesting and disturbing truths about who we are as humans. She wanted to examine what would happen if someone was freed from any responsibility for their actions. Without moral and legal safeguards, how would humans behave? The crowd's response to this invitation demonstrated the dual nature of our collective humanity. While several participants took full liberties to inflict pain and terror, others displayed kindness and even tenderness. As the night progressed and things began to break down, the crowd formed into two opposing factions: those who sought to abuse Marina Abramović and those who wanted to protect her. These two groups could easily be thought of as our conscience. While we are capable of great acts of kindness, we are equally driven by a desire to inflict pain and suffering. The thing is, when that desire for pain becomes a group activity, chaos can ensue as we lose sight of any kind of self-imposed limits. The second performance of Abramović Rhythm series is Rhythm 5, which was performed in the Student Cultural Center in Belgrade in 1974. In Rhythm 5, Abramović constructed a 5-pointed communist star from wood and wood shavings, hence the title Rhythm 5. She then soaked the star in 100 liters of petrol. After setting fire to it, Abramović ceremoniously paced in a crucifixion pose around the burning star. She then proceeded to cut her hair, and as she paced repeatedly around the burning altar, she fed bunches of it to each point of the star like a sacrificial offering. She followed this by then cutting her fingernails, followed by her toenails, which she also scattered among the 5 corners of the star. Only after having repeatedly circled the star and depositing her bodily offerings, does Abramović step into the star. Burning the communist 5-pointed star represented a physical and mental purification, while also addressing the political traditions of her past. Due to the light and smoke given off by the fire, the observing audience did not realize that once inside the star, the artist had lost consciousness from lack of oxygen. Some members of the audience realized what had occurred only when the flames came very near to her body, and she remained inert. A doctor and several members of the audience intervened and extricated her from the star. Abramović expressed immense frustration following this performance, due to her physical limitations. However, through her failure to complete this performance, Abramović discovered a new area of focus for the remaining 3 performances of her rhythm series, that of the limits of the body. Later, she said the following: "I was supposed to stay there, till it burned down, but as I was lying there, the fire took up all the oxygen and I passed out. Nobody knew what was happening, till a doctor in the audience noticed it and pulled me out. This was when I realized that the subject of my work should be the limits of the body." Following her failure to remain physically conscious in Rhythm 5, Abramović in her following rhythm sought a form of performance in which she could use the body with and without consciousness, without stopping the performance. In Rhythm 2, performed at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Zagreb, in October 1974, Abramović created a performance that promoted a planned loss of control. For this performance, Abramović took medications typically used for patients of catatonia and schizophrenia, and filmed the results in front of an audience. This performance was shown in 2 parts over 7 hours, split between her experiences of each of the 2 pills she ingested. This time the title Rhythm 2 refers to the 2 pills. Through her lack of control over the effects of the pills, Abramović sacrificed herself both psychologically and physically, while still maintaining an active mind. For the first part of Rhythm 2, which took 50 minutes, Abramović took the pill meant for the treatment of acute catatonia. Soon after ingesting the first pill, Abramovic's muscles began to seize up, until she was completely unable to control the movement of her body. While mentally she was conscious of what was happening, she was unable to physically react. For the second part of the performance, Abramović repeated the defined steps of Part 1, but this time ingested the pill for schizophrenia. This medicine is meant to calm down schizophrenic patients who struggle with violent behavior. Similarly to the first part of the performance, Abramović soon lost control over her own body. This time what was sacrificed was Abramovic's sense of identity. During the 5 hours it took for the medication to wear off, Abramović was completely unaware of herself.